There are only 10 days left until voters go to the polls here in the UK, but there's an election even sooner, rather, for one of our near neighbours. Round one of France's National Assembly election takes place next weekend after President Macron called a snap vote after his party got a drubbing in last month's European elections. The far-right National Rally is still ahead in the latest polls, so what are the chances of it winning power? Let's get the thoughts of the French journalist, political commentator and author Agnes Poirier. Good evening, Agnes. Thanks very much for being with us. And you said in the Times at the weekend that being French feels at the moment like bivouacking on a volcano, which was a lovely phrase. But what do you mean exactly?
It's a lovely phrase, but it's not a very good feeling, I can assure you. Well, it feels that, there's danger looming for the French Republic and for us all in France. It's as simple as that. Because, there are four scenarios, basically, after the two rounds of the legislative elections. Either we have a majority, absolute or relative, for the far right or the hard right, Marine Le Pen's party, and President Macron has to appoint a prime minister coming from that party. And it's very difficult to see them cohabiting, really. We did have cohabitations, as we call them, in the 1980s and 1990s between the socialist François Mitterrand and the Gaullist Jacques Chirac, and then between Jacques Chirac as president and Lionel Jospin, the socialist, as prime minister. But essentially, they agreed on Republicans' principles. The one came from the Gaullist right-wing party and the other one from the socialists, but they were both Democrats. If President Macron has to cohabitate with a far-right prime minister, it's very difficult to understand how it's going to work. And obviously, as Marine Le Pen actually said yesterday and repeated today, they want him to resign. And now, second scenario is that we have a majority, absolute or relative, of the hard left-led coalition or alliance of different left parties. And this will also play havoc, perhaps be even more volatile, because the hard left will be controlling that alliance, and what they want is insurrection. Now, the third scenario would be as catastrophic, because it would be three groups of equal forces, more or less. So hard right, hard left, and then a Republican front made of Macronists, but also people from the left or the right who didn't want to go into an alliance with the extremes. But then it would mean that the country would be completely paralyzed. Fourth scenario, which is very unlikely, is that President Macron manages to convince a majority of the French people and be given a kind of, broad coalition, and he would probably appoint a prime minister from perhaps the left to build a unity government, the kind France resorted to during the wars, for instance. But that fourth scenario is very unlikely.
So what is Macron, what is his thinking here? There's one theory that he wants to give the far-right RN party a chance to sort of mess up, but this is all very high-stakes stuff, as you say.
It is, and I think he must have been very surprised at the rapidity with which all the left chapels, if you like, entered immediately an alliance. Of course, he can say, as indeed a lot of French voters say, this is a hard left-led alliance, therefore extremist and therefore not Republican, of course. But it's still a dilemma for a lot of French voters who want to cast a vote, and a lot of them, are considering abstaining, but the stakes are so high, and President Macron might have outdone himself and gambled, too much. That's a question for historians.
I mean, it's interesting. I was looking at the polls, or one of the polls today, that Macron's Centrist Alliance is even struggling to sort of land its core message on the economy, that it's the only credible party to manage the economy. And I see in the poll it's not even landing that message successfully.
Well, no, because it seems that irrationality is what is prevailing in France at the moment. The voters are not interested, really. I mean, it's a bit like Brexit in many ways. They know that whether with the hard left or the hard right, they won't be better off. Of course, they know that. It's not what they want. They want to just knock over the table and perhaps for others to be less happy and less well off. But anyone who actually read the manifesto of the hard left or the hard right know that France is going for bankruptcy, basically, if we choose one or of those two options. And if you look at all the statistics, I mean, President Macron on the economy has been extremely competent in the last 7 years, but it seems irrelevant for 2/3 of the French electorate.
So are we, I mean, look, you've got the Olympics coming to Paris. Are we about to see sort of a fair degree of political chaos as the Olympics are coming to town?
I think so. And it's likely to last. If President Macron doesn't resign, then it will be 3 years of extreme chaos. The hard right, if they are in government, will be cautious because what they want really and their aim is the presidential elections in 3 years' time. So they might, do a sort of Meloni and trying to work with all European institutions, for instance, but just aiming to implement their true manifesto in 3 years' time. Now, I really don't see President Macron being able to live for 3 years with a hard right or a hard left government.
Well, Agnes, thank you very much for explaining all that, and thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.